The Thin Gray Line collection brought to you exclusively by LEOChallengecoins.com. Collect pins, challenge coins, medallions, emblems, patches, and more at LEOChallengecoins.com. Visit www.leochallengecoins.com.
Inmates will turn violent at a moment's notice. It's time we take a stand. Too many correctional officers have fallen at the hands of inmates, and I'm not talking about just in this decade, but decades past. We can go way back, but things remain the same. We still have poor equipment, insufficient training in some places, bad mistakes made by management in some places, and I'll give a couple of examples with this video. And what do? We're having officers injured and killed on duty over and over and over. And yet I don't see any movement by the powers to be that control your state's agency in the state prison system in many places. And I don't see the politicians getting off their golf course and golf cart and coming to help us. So we may have to talk about how we can help ourselves, but how can we fight this issue as well? And we do have some family members that have decided to sue the state and the Department of Corrections when they have a family member who is killed in the line of duty within a prison or jail. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. Now, what do we do to get the politicians and the high prison management out of their golf carts and stop hobnobbing? Now, I know that's going to make some people mad. We do have some managers that work very hard to protect their people. So if I'm not talking about you, don't get offended. I want to make it very clear, we have managers and leaders that are working hard to protect their people. But we're going to need more than that. We're going to need some politicians and some secretaries of corrections and other people to get involved and get serious. It's just too much. I'll give you a couple of examples. Sergeant Meghan Callahan was beaten to death at Bertie Correctional Institution, North Carolina, 2 years ago. It's a story we all have heard about, and it's popped back up in the news recently. Her father has filed a lawsuit against the agency citing chronic understaffing and insufficient training. Now, I don't know the man. I haven't talked to him. I'm just speaking my opinion. I don't believe he's doing this just for his daughter and his family. I think he's doing this for correctional officers of the future to try to get more staffing, better pay, better equipment, and better training to help avoid this type of situation for other families. That's my thought on that. Now, we can go back to 2003. Charlotte Correctional Institution, Officer Darla K. Lapham was killed as she was supervising 5 inmates on a correctional detail. The inmates were building a new dormitory and had access to a 5-pound sledgehammer. 3 of the 5 inmates wanted to escape. The 5-pound sledgehammer was used to beat her to death. Now, that scenario I know a little more about because it's down here in Florida. That was a very poor management decision, and now that I'm retired, I can tell a little bit more about it from what I've talked with other officers who are now retired from there, that were there at the time, and things we've discussed. Now, the captain on duty that night had sent her out. They were working around the clock to get this building done because, not his fault, but Governor Jeb Bush was coming to the prison to take a tour. And they wanted this done before he got there so that everything looked hunky-dory. And when he came through, it was the perfect prison and so forth. So they were working short-staffed, as we always do, and working around the clock to get this done. So they send a Officer Lapham out with 5 inmates. She was on probationary status. She did not quite have a year in yet. And they send her out on this work crew with 5 inmates. Some of them had life sentences. And they send her alone with these inmates and these tools. I know we're short-staffed. I know the governor's coming to look at this, and it's got to be just right. But while all the upper management was home sleeping, she was killed on duty alone with 5 inmates. Should have been more officers there. Okay, the supervisors and the wardens and all of them were demoted and fired and moved and suspended and all those things that always occur. And some of them have moved to different institutions and then worked their way back up the rank. You know, it just sickens me. We just lose a life that is way more important than some of the things that go on in life and in prisons. It's way more important. And we let these people who made bad mistakes in management wander around and work their way back up the system. One was demoted. I believe the captain was demoted to sergeant and was sent to Correctional, if I'm not mistaken. And he wiggled his way back up the ranks. So, you know, you say, what does it take to get something fixed? Is it going to take someone's life? How many times do you hear that scenario mentioned in life in general, not just in corrections? Well, in this case, for decades, we've watched officers' lives be taken. And we know that it comes with the job. I know there's some of you saying right now, you take the job, that's part of it, it can happen, and you got to be tough and you got to be rough. And listen, folks, that's all fine and dandy, but we are not doing a good job at preventing. Officer survival, we need more training in that. We need more prevention, we need more staff, we need better pay, we need better equipment, we need better training. But yet it's not happening. Decade after decade after decade, we just see the same thing over and over and over. And then you wonder why we're short-staffed. You sit back and go, wonder why we're short-staffed, Joe. I mean, I love this job. I'm in my office and member of FCCD, and I get to go golfing, and we have a lot of steak dinners. Why don't people like this job? Well, the front lines are getting fed up with not enough care in their area, not enough concern in their area. If you are giving concern and you are a state that's working hard in officer survival training, I would love to shake your hand. I want to thank you right now. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ones that are not doing a good job. And as you can tell, I am talking to the much higher level staff. I'm talking about secretaries of corrections, politicians, regional directors. Let's get on the ball. You know, one life is much too much. One life. I know that prisons are dangerous. We know inmates are violent. We know that it's not a job that guarantees 100% you will get out of this job without being injured. They say the average officer that does a 20-25 year career in corrections will be assaulted at least 2 times. At least 2 times. Assaulted in one way or another. So we're not going to stop at 100%, but I bet we could solve a lot and save a lot of lives if we put more work into officer survival. Now, until we can get some help from up above, what can we do as correctional officers to help ourselves? Well, the things that we can do are stay alert and be aware of your surroundings. You cannot be lackadaisical and have blinders. You have to know everything that's going on around you. Use your peripheral vision. The old adage, the old saying, head on a swivel, have eyes in the back of your head. Know what's going on around you. Do not enter areas of suspicion. If it looks like something's about to go down, There's 20 inmates. It looks like there's going to be a gang fight. Don't rush up in the middle. Back out. Call for backup. Say, hey, I have an incident getting ready to go down between C dorm and D dorm. There's 20 inmates. It looks like there's going to be a fight. Wait till that backup gets there. And people always wonder, why is there 15 or 20 officers when these incidents happen? You know, you hear people say, that's just too many officers. What are they trying to do? Folks, there's a reason for that. We do not want to lose an officer's life. It's called backup. And it's called rushing to the aid of your fellow officer. Another thing we can do for ourselves is when you hear that an officer's in distress and needs backup, don't continue drinking your coffee and say, they got enough. They got enough officers. I heard 4 or 5 of them headed that way. Good to go. Nope. Get off your lazy ass and go protect your fellow officer. And yes, I did use that word because that bothers me. When you don't get off your rear end to go protect a fellow officer, we might as well just write you off for cowardice and get you on out of there. Now we're even more short-staffed. But I'd rather have 5 solid, strong officers who come to help and get rid of you than have you just sit on your rear end when somebody needs help. Okay? Talking about things we can do to help ourselves now. We talked about that we need more help from management. Check the items that you carry on your uniform that can become a weapon against you. If you are with other officers and you're trying to quell a disturbance and an inmate grabs the pin out of your pocket and stabs you in the neck, that is bad. And I did a video on that. It's on my YouTube. And it ended up on Corrections 1 as well. Things that you can have on your uniform that can be used as weapons against you. Check yourself and say, uh-oh, this pin needs to go down in the pocket, or it needs to go down in my cargo pocket down here in my pants. Someplace the inmate cannot grab a hold of it. Look for things you have on your body that they could use to choke you, anything like that. That's common sense, but we don't think of it in many occasions, okay? Keep your personal opinions to yourself with inmates. Keep your private life private. Getting too friendly with inmates has led to officer deaths. The inmates become infatuated with you. They become over friendly with you. They want you. Man or woman, depends, you know. We've had it both sides. Men have had female inmates, male correctional officers have had female inmates become infatuated with them. Female officers have had male inmates become infatuated with them. And we've had cases, I had one at Hendry Correctional. It's a closed institution now here in Florida, but back in the day, a male inmate became infatuated with a male officer. So anything can happen in prison. So do not discuss your private issues with inmates, and keep your personal distance. Keep your safety distance. Try to stay 3 feet or more away from the inmates when talking. If they want to come up in your face and talk, say, stop, stop. Right there. You can talk to me from there. I'm listening. You can talk to me from there. I'm listening. These are all things that can help give you a little distance. Gives you some, if they decide to come at you, you might have enough time just to key your mic and call for help. You might be able to get behind that door and shut that door in the control room before the inmate gets to you. You know, don't let the inmates come up in your control rooms. I've seen that happen, and it makes me wonder, you know, what is an inmate doing in the control room? These are all little things you can do to help prevent an attack by an inmate. Keep them outside. Keep them 3 or 4 feet away from the control room door. What do you need? What do you want? Depends on how your control rooms are set up. In the jail, they have to talk through a box. Most of the time, that's the way it is in the prisons. But sometimes I've been at prisons where the officer opens the door, you know, to go in and out of the dorm, and they're talking from the doorway. So keep that distance so you can shut that door and call for help. Think of all these things. Don't go into an area of the prison that gives you a dead end if you think something's going on. If you think something's going down, don't walk into a dead end and say, now I'm trapped, I can't get out of here. Observe the situation from a safe area and call for help. There's so many things you can do, but one thing is look out for each other. Every officer, look out for each other and protect each other. And I say speak up. If somebody says, I want you to take these 5 inmates, all these sledgehammers, all these rakes, and I want you to go out and I want you to spend the day with them while they work on this project. Speak up. Say, sir, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, I don't know if I feel comfortable with being with these 5 or 6 inmates with all these tools. Is there another officer that can help? And they'll probably, and I hope you don't get the answer, you hired on as a correctional officer and you do what you're told and you get out there and deal with it. You know, because Darla Lapham did as she was told, was a great officer, they said, almost off probation. And now she's not here anymore to tell her side of the story. So supervisors, think about things that you're asking your officers to do, and would you feel comfortable in that situation? I'm going to stop here because I think I've got my message across in this 16 minute video. I think I've got my message across, but I just took more time on this video because officer survival is so important. Officer survival. Do we need to take a stand? And how do we take a stand? Thank you for watching Gary York True Prison Stories.